is your favorite Call of Duty? If you've been gaming for a while, you can probably answer this question. You'll probably say something like, oh, the first Modern Warfare, or Modern Warfare 2. Or if you're into Treyarch's Call of Duty games, you'd say like Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, or maybe even Black Ops 3, the most recent one. Or you'd say something like World at War if you're kind of into the old World War II setting. But my favorite Call of Duty is one that not many people know about anymore because it kind of just faded away. And that's really the point of this show, is to talk about games that were either really hyped up or genuinely good that faded away to obscurity for whatever reason. So today we are going to cover Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. Hello guys, I am Drew from Punch Punch Magic, and as I said before, this is a show where we look at games that have kind of fallen into obscurity. So today I'm going to be talking about Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. For the most part in this video I'm just going to say Big Red 1 rather than saying Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1, mostly because it's a mouthful, but also because the actual Call of Duty 2 will come up quite a bit in this discussion. Call of Duty Big Red 1 released in November of 2005, and it was Treyarch's first foray into first-person shooters, and it's actually their first Call of Duty game. Not many people know that. This was Treyarch's first Call of Duty. It's actually pretty cool when you think about it like that, because they ended up becoming like the Call of Duty studio, like kind of circumventing Infinity Ward and kind of taking over their franchise. So it's pretty cool that this was the first time that that happened. Before this, Treyarch was known for the Spider-Man games, like Spider-Man 2, I believe, and the ones based off the movie, and then they also made Ultimate Spider-Man, which is actually a game that I really liked when it first came out, and I might actually do a review on this because I don't hear anybody talk about it anymore. I think it was the best Spider-Man game, but that's just me. Back to Call of Duty though, Treyarch was assigned to this franchise because Infinity Ward was hard at work on making Call of Duty 2 as good as they possibly could for the Xbox 360 as a launch title and the PC. So they didn't really have as much time as they could have wanted to make a port for the game for the original Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube, so that's when they enlisted the help of Treyarch and I think some other developers from some of the expansions for the first Call of Duty to make this game off of the first Call of Duty's engine for those three systems. But why would I make such a bold claim that this is my favorite Call of Duty ever? Well, it lies in how different this one actually feels from other Call of Duties as far as its story is concerned. Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1 was a departure for the series at the time. Instead of focusing on what it feels like to be a single grunt in a massive war, like every other Call of Duty up until this point, Treyarch opted to focus almost completely on your squad and its characters. Big Red 1 takes place throughout the war and has you playing as a soldier in the Army's 1st Infantry Division. This division was known for being one of the oldest divisions in the Army, with some of history's greatest battles under their belts.
With regiments dating back to the American Revolution, it is the oldest continuously serving division in the United States Army.
You play as a part of Fox Company and see battles in Africa, Sicily, France, Belgium, and Germany. The game doesn't spend too much time on your operations and their context and history though, but instead it focuses on your squad mates and how the war changes them over time. This was done to emulate the camaraderie felt in films and series like Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers. This is evident in the fact that almost the entire cast in the game is comprised of actors from both of those pieces of media. Now if you've watched my other videos, you may be thinking back to Area 51 and you may see this as a red flag. Did they hire these actors just for their star power alone? Well, sort of. In a sense, yes, having those actors in the game would definitely help its appeal, but since most of these actors had already spent years working together on the sets of other World War II films, they brought an extra level of authenticity and experience. This, in my opinion, is what makes Big Red 1 so great. Your squad is filled with stereotypes across the board, and yet they feel incredibly genuine and real. This one is nicknamed Brooklyn, even though he isn't from there. This one is the nerdy, smart one. And this one is the gruff, ooh-rah, supreme loyalty soldier type. Hell, he even looks like the soldier from Team Fortress 2. They're all just stereotypes. You shouldn't care about these characters because we have seen them countless times before. but because of their performances, we do care and believe in their relationships to one another. All of that is thanks to the fact that the actors portraying them are actually friends in real life, and have gone through scenarios just like the ones that their characters are going through, on film of course. Having these actors in the game was the single best decision Treyarch made, and it helps it stand out among the other Call of Duties. Having star power in a Call of Duty game isn't a new concept, especially today, but these actors elevate the experience more than just being a familiar face. They bring a certain level of experience and authenticity to their roles. This is normally the point where I go through the story for the game beat by beat, but since this is kind of like a historical narrative, it doesn't really, I don't know, it's not that interesting as far as where you go and what you do in those missions. The most important part of this game is your squad and your relation to them and their relationships with the other members in your squad. And that's what Treyarch really focused on here, was making sure that your squad felt as real as possible. The player watches as their squad climbs the ranks from privates to sergeants, as well as how they grow together and learn to resent war. You see characters you've grown to know fairly well succeed, while others ultimately fail. Each one of your squad mates feels transformed by the end of the game, one way or another. Each one of them has an arc and shows satisfying growth. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and warn you guys about spoilers here. I normally don't do this, but since I actually want you guys to go out and find a way to play this game, I think it's fitting. Jump to this time code if you want to skip this. First, we have Vic, the gung-ho soldier type I spoke about before. He doesn't really have an arc at all, which ends up being the point of his character in the story. His commitment to fighting in the war and following orders causes him to feel invincible over time. He never lacks confidence in his abilities and never questions his orders, blindly obeying. This inevitably causes him to get killed.
We gotta help Vic! He's dead already! There's nothing we can do!
Vic's death is the first of the squad, who at this point were starting to believe they were unbeatable. His death stands as a reminder that even a fantastic soldier like Vic isn't invincible. The game backs us up with a poignant scene where the squad finally starts to realize the hells of war.
Bastards. I still can't believe it.
That son of a bitch. Selfish, mean-spirited bulldog was the toughest soldier we had.
Gather up. Alright.
Then there's Sergeant Hawkins, or Hawk as the squad calls him. He was clearly inspired by Tom Hanks' character in Saving Private Ryan, as he leads his squad with a firm, if somewhat sarcastic hand.
Questions? Outstanding, ladies! Mount up!
For most of the game, he is unwavering in his confidence in the war effort. He spouts orders like a true leader and demands respect and attention with every call. This continues until near the end of the game in Belgium, where we first see a crack in Hawk's confidence.
Yes, I understand, but... Yes, sir. Understood. Out.
This is used as a great signifier that things aren't going to end well. This one brief moment of hesitance was the defining moment for his character and ultimately leads to his demise. The character with the greatest arc in the game and the most tragic ending is probably Brooklyn. Yes, I know, when I first heard this,
I'm from the Bronx, Sarge.
I rolled my eyes too. It's so cliched. But hear me out. At first, Brooklyn loves the idea of war, and at one point even confesses that given the chance he wouldn't even want to return home. As time goes on though, and members of your squad start to die, Brooklyn's outlook on the war changes dramatically. Not only do you see it in his performance, but you can actually see it on his character. Treyarch made the great decision to alter the character's models over time to show more wear and tear as the war went on. By the end of the war, Brooklyn is no longer clean-shaven or sharp-looking. He's just as tired as everyone else and ready to go home. Unfortunately, after he finally admits this fact, Brooklyn is killed by some artillery. His tale of self-acceptance is one that is ever present in the World War II genre, but it is done so respectfully here that I have to give the writers props on a great character. One who, once again, has no right to be so interesting because they are just a stereotype, but ends up becoming one of the most significant characters in the game. The other characters have minor arcs, like Kelly starting out as a weak, afraid soldier only to become a sergeant and lead, or Smitty, Vic's replacement, who ends up earning the respect of the squad as time goes on. These arcs aren't at the forefront of the story like the others, but they are still present and help give the characters extra dimension. Big Red 1's story succeeded exactly in what it set out to do: tell a compelling story about friendship despite being in a living hell. Yes, the story isn't perfect. The ending is a little abrupt and disappointing. For example, it only tells you about the Battle of the Bulge rather than actually letting you experience it for yourself.
That winter, in an act of desperation, Germany launches a massive offensive in the Ardennes, and the Big Red One is tasked with holding the line in what would later be known as the Battle of the Bulge.
And it is a little disappointing that I never felt a connection between myself, the player, and the other characters in the game. I felt like a bystander rather than a participant. This typically comes with the territory with a voiceless protagonist, and it doesn't take away from the other characters' stories, but it would have helped the overall experience if there was a little more interaction between the player and the squad, other than just a few nods or handshakes here and there. Despite those two things though, Big Red One is possibly the best and most genuine story ever told in the franchise's history. Treyarch's decision to focus on a single group of people rather than the whole entire campaigns helped ground the feeling of being in a war and watching your closest friends suffer. Just look at this clip from the behind-the-scenes footage of interviews with one of the veterans from the Big Red One unit.
You rely on that guy on the right and left. This stuff about apple pie and mother and, the country, that's baloney. You sold it because you didn't want to leave your buddies. You didn't want to make your buddies ashamed of you.
When they got shot, you worry for their safety. When they die, you feel for their loss. Those are things that stand out about this Call of Duty that help it rise above the rest, in my opinion.
Outstanding work, son. Putting you in for Corporal. You deserve it. Yeah, I guess you've done all right out there.
Now I'm going to take a break from this game's story to talk about its gameplay, and for the most part it's actually pretty familiar. If you've played a Call of Duty game on consoles before, you know how this plays. This is some of the best first-person gameplay I've experienced so far in this show. While that may not sound like much, it really is high praise. At the time this game came out, nothing felt quite as tight or responsive as what we have here. It felt like a next-gen or PC experience on last-gen consoles, which is exactly what Treyarch set out to do. If you've played Call of Duty 2 on the Xbox 360, you'll feel right at home here. The game is just as responsive as that game, just on an older engine and console. The control scheme is very dated though, and can cause some headaches until you get adjusted to it. The original Xbox controller, which I used, lacked shoulder buttons, with Microsoft instead putting two small buttons on the bottom right of the controller called black and white. Obviously. This means Treyarch had to work around the controller to make something that felt like the new Call of Duty, which worked well enough for the time but hasn't aged well. X is normally what you press to reload a weapon, but here instead it throws a grenade. To reload, you actually have to press the white button all the way down here, which can become stressful on your thumb over time. You get the feeling that the controls were just shuffled around in order to allow the left trigger to be the aim down sight button, or ADS, like it is in every other Call of Duty. It's such a small thing, but it ultimately makes Big Red One feel familiar to gamers today, if somewhat dated. Overall though, going back and playing today is fun and satisfying. The weapons sound great and meaty. Hell, everything here sounds amazing. The weapons feel weighty thanks to the fact that the game isn't nearly as twitchy as more recent Call of Duties. It takes much longer to aim down your sights here, which is a good thing. It makes all of your actions much more deliberate. The game overall is much slower than what today's gamers are used to. There isn't even a way to sprint in this game. This, on top of the fact that you only regenerate health via health packs, means that the game has a much slower and tactical feel overall. You end up picking your shots sparingly, and playing this game on higher difficulties where you really have to think through battles is a fun experience. The rest of the gameplay feels great, and Treyarch did a fantastic job of keeping things fresh from time to time. In particular, there's a section of the game that takes place on a bomber. In this section, you control a wingman that is tasked with walking back and forth on the plane in order to ward off attacking fighters. This section feels great and has excellent pacing and mechanics. It looks great too, thanks to the layout of the plane and how you feel like you're really just a single small soldier inside this large, huge vessel. The game has also various vehicle sections where you take control of a tank. These sections are really fun and executed way better than Call of Duty 2's tank sections, in my opinion. The chink in the game's armor comes in some of the on-foot gameplay. Let me explain. Each level is mostly fine, and Treyarch did an excellent job making sure the pacing for each was balanced, but over time each encounter starts to feel the same. The gameplay eventually devolves into little more than a shooting gallery, where you enter an area and kill everyone in order to proceed. This becomes more and more repetitive over the course of the game, and despite the fact that the actual gameplay itself is fun, starts to weigh on you over time. This is a problem of pretty much every Call of Duty though, even today, so I didn't let it hinder my overall view of the game too much. The game had minor problems, but nothing really took away from the overall experience. Hell, even the multiplayer was fun for the time and fully featured as far as 2005 was concerned. Keep in mind that this was way before Call of Duty pioneered progression systems in multiplayer with COD 4. Despite this and the fact that the game sold fairly well at 7,900,000 copies, it still didn't sell as well as previous console Call of Duties, namely Finest Hour, which sold 10 million copies. Big Red 1 quickly fell into obscurity. You see, Big Red 1 had one huge problem. That problem was Call of Duty 2, its bigger brother. This monumental blockbuster sequel was released just weeks after this game on PC and Xbox 360, taking the limelight away from Big Red 1. Call of Duty 2 honestly earned this by being a genuinely great game, which garnered a lot of attention for both the franchise and the Xbox 360, considering it was a launch title. Being overshadowed by its bigger brother meant that Big Red 1 got none of the attention it deserved. Sure, Big Red 1 reviewed well, but thanks to Activision's confusing marketing for the game, people generally thought that Big Red 1 was just a last-gen version of the new game, rather than its own separate title. This, along with the fact that the game only released on the original Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, meant that PC gamers and Xbox 360 early adopters never felt the need to go back because they never really knew that they were missing anything. Well, now they know, at least hopefully. I seriously suggest anyone who is watching this and who is a fan of Call of Duty, especially the ones set in World War II, check out this game any way you can. You can find copies pretty easily on Amazon for the 3 consoles, and if you want to, you can find the PlayStation 2 version online in some emulators. Even though I didn't try this myself, I'm not really a big emulator person. Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1 was Treyarch's first whack at the franchise, and it helped solidify them as a studio that is able to balance a well-thought-out story with the heart-pounding action we know and love. They did an incredible job on their first outing, especially when you consider that at the same time they were also working on Call of Duty 3, which released almost exactly a year after Big Red 1. That means that their team had to have been split in half or something. Either way, they didn't have every single person at the studio working on this game, which makes it even more impressive. After taking some time to go back and play this game, I really just hope that Activision or somebody at Treyarch or Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer are the new people working on it. I really hope that they just decide to go back to either World War I or World War II. I mean, we saw with Battlefield 1 that the gaming community at large has a hankering for this, and they really, really want to go back to this type of period. I think that going back to World War II would be kind of smart, because there are a whole bunch of gamers now that have grown up outside of the kind of World War II first-person shooter bubble. But now I think there's actually been enough time to revisit it and go back, and I'm sure there are plenty more interesting stories to be told. Call of Duty is severely lacking in something that has any sort of substance. I mean, I think the last story that I was really impressed by from Call of Duty was, well, it was a Treyarch game. It was Black Ops 1, and it's just because the story surprised me. It wasn't necessarily because the story had any substance to it. There may be more technically proficient or impressive Call of Duties out there, most of which come from Treyarch themselves, but I would always remember Big Red 1 as my introduction to the franchise and as my favorite Call of Duty ever. The story, gameplay, and overall pacing were a joy to go back and experience again for this review. And despite some questionable controls, the overall experience has aged very well. Now where's my Band of Brothers box set? All this talk of camaraderie, war, it's making me want to binge watch it all over again. Where is it? Where's that thing? Do I even own it? Shit, I need to go buy it. All in all, it was refreshing to return to a time where Call of Duty was all about being as authentic and realistic as possible. Now the franchise is more known for jump packs, no-scopes, and microtransactions. Don't even get me started on all the Modern Warfare Remastered nonsense that's going on right now. But here we get to look through a window at a time where the developers were more concerned with creating a fun and engaging experience for their players, rather than just nickel and diming them. You could argue that there are plenty of other Call of Duties that are more significant or quote-unquote better. Yes, Call of Duty 2 brought the franchise to the masses. Yes, Modern Warfare reshaped online shooters forever. And yes, World at War introduced the incredibly popular Zombies mode. But for some reason, none of those games shine as brightly for me as Big Red 1. Its surprising attention to detail and amount of substance is since unmatched in my opinion. With everything that is wrong with Call of Duty today, it is nice to look back at a time where they got almost everything oh so right.
How come everyone's always counting on us, Sarge?
Because we're the infantry, Corporal, and God loves the infantry!
Thank you guys for watching. If you've been watching this far, thank you for listening to me ramble on in this last section. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'm planning on doing a lot more of these. I actually have a whole collection over here, and I have a big list on Amazon of games I want to buy if this is successful. If you guys support this, it'll just get better and better. every single video. I love feedback, so if you guys have any feedback or more information about the games, feel free to ask. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching once again. See ya!